All right, let's get rolling. Welcome to this month's Q&A. We're going to go through all of the questions that you've got about real estate investing. For those of you that don't know, I'm Blake Choisnet. I started investing as I was in a W-2 that was sucking my soul dry, and decided to go all in on it. Built a multi-million-dollar portfolio in 18 months, retired in 2 years, self-made millionaire since then. Now I split my time between growing my portfolio and teaching other people how to do it. So this month's live is coming to you courtesy of the Rentals2Wealth community. If you've got questions about how to get into the Rentals2Wealth community, I will put it in the comments so that you guys can join. I know most of the people on the call are from the Rentals2Wealth community, and that's fantastic. So you guys will get to see the replay in the Q&A section in the classroom. But with that, let's hop straight into it. All righty. As you guys have questions, those of you that are on the call, feel free to send over your questions in the comment section, and I will prioritize getting you guys answers for the people that are on the call. So awesome. All right. If you're on the call, where is everybody at on their investing journey? So if you're on the call, send over in the chat, whether you're a beginner, you got 0 doors, whether you're intermediate, you got 1 to 5 doors, experienced, say that's 5 to 20. And then let's say you're an expert, you're a pro, you got 20 plus doors. And I'll get you some responses that'll cater to where you're at. So awesome. Let's get rolling. I've got a few different questions here. So I want to make sure that we get those answered. All right. Again, the best way to ask these questions to me is go to blakeschoisnet.com/ask, and that will put it straight into my form. And I'm just going straight off the top. All right. Giving you a little bit of Harry Mack, just improvisation. All right. All right. So first question here from Fanny. Fanny Krish asks, should I avoid Section 8 properties? Should I avoid Section 8 properties? Her specific question is, got a good cap rate, but the property is 70% Section 8. Is it a reliable property? Meaning, can they terminate unexpectedly? What are the benefits, risk? Also, will it be heavy maintenance, Section 8 tenants? Okay. So we're talking Section 8 here. Now, first I want to clarify, what is Section 8? Section 8, you'll also hear it referred to as HUD. Section 8 and HUD, for your intents and purposes as an investor, they're the same thing. They're equivalent. They mean the exact same thing. Section 8 is the section of legislation that says that the government can pay for someone's housing, and HUD is the Housing and Urban Development Committee that actually walks that out. They're the institution that actually does it. So when someone says they're on a HUD voucher, that's Section 8. If someone says they're Section 8, they're on a HUD voucher. There are multiple different voucher programs within HUD, but to you, they're all the exact same. Now, there's really 2 things we want to look at: is what are the benefits to Section 8 and what are the trade-offs? Because every single situation is going to be different. It's always going to have a benefit and a trade-off. Nothing is going to be absolutely perfect, ever. And this is just a life rule. Nothing's ever going to be perfect. It's got benefits and it's got trade-offs. So let's talk about the trade-offs. Trade-offs of Section 8 is generally they're harder on the property. These individuals, the lower the income, the less people tend to treat their property well, or the things that they own well. And that's just a statistical representation of the world. So if you don't have a ton of money, generally you're not going to treat things as well as someone that does have a ton of money. So one, they're going to be harder on your property. So what that looks like practically is, the areas around the door handles are going to be all smudged up and dirty. Likely the corners around walls as you're coming from a hallway into, say, a living area, they're going to be all dinged up and dirtier. Maybe the floors will probably be a little bit rougher. If you got carpet, it's going to be rougher there as well. So that's one of the trade-offs. The other is it requires a process. So you got to get approved by your local housing authority, your public housing authority. Now, that process is not hard. When you get under a contract or someone applies to get into your rental because you've marketed it as Section 8 available or housing choice vouchers available, or they're accepted, what they're going to do is they're going to approve that application, and then they're going to come out to the property and they're going to inspect this property. This inspection is not hard. It's not, they're just trying to make sure it's a living and dignified, like it's a place that they can live. There's not holes in the floor and, mice running around and stuff like that. So it's things like, you can look this up, Section 8 requirements for your local housing authority. It's stuff like you got to have a blind lock on every exterior door. You got to have a peephole on every exterior door. You got to have multiple means of egress, things like if there's a fire, stuff like that. So those are the two trade-offs. Now, the benefits are, one, it can actually be a higher cash flow situation. This doesn't work in every area of the market, but there are areas of the market where Section 8 can get you more cash flow than you can get on the open market. And there are areas in the market where Section 8 would get you less cash flow. Here's what I mean by that. In my market in the Southwest area, they're nicer properties. And so those properties, those areas, they're going to rent for more on the open market, call it $2,200 to $2,400 a month. A 3-bedroom house for HUD in my market is something like $1,550 a month. All right. So $1,550 a month versus 22, that's not going to help. Renting that as HUD won't help me. But in the north to northeast area of my market, on the open market, I've got a 3-bedroom house, a 3-1, that's like 1,000 square feet. It would probably reasonably only rent for $1,100 a month, but I can get $1,550 for it because it's a 3-bedroom house. And that's how HUD determines the value of a house, is the bedrooms that it has. It could be a 10-bedroom, 1-bath. They don't care. It's a 10-bedroom house. It could be a 1-bedroom, 10-bath. They don't care. It's a 1-bedroom house. That's how they determine it. So that can give you higher cash flow in a lot of areas. The second benefit is it's easier to rent, or it's easier to raise rent, because whenever they're on the HUD vouchers, these are all posted publicly. In fact, I'll send you the HUD link here in just a minute. Let me bring it up. I'm going to send you, boom. If you want to know for 2025 what your market will give you for beds and baths, boom, I just sent that in the chat. That is where you can find that information. You can find this anywhere. So whenever it's revised for the next year, you know exactly what to increase rent to. And when you increase rent, they then go apply for it. It's approved and great. You're good to go. So it's easier to increase rent. The last piece is typically these people, when people ask me about Section 8, one of the first things I say is generally they're actually not worse tenants. It's not a bad situation. I would say 60% of my properties are Section 8. The reason for this is these people have probably been on a list for 2 years waiting. I think of a family back when I lived in Austin, when I started my journey investing, I was doing some work in the east side of Austin focused on the fatherless crisis. 74% of those kids didn't know their dad. And so I was working with some of the community, some of the kids there in the community, and one of their families, there were 4 kids, 2 parents living in a 1-bed, 1-bath apartment. They were paying $850 a month. They were waiting for a HUD voucher. When they got approved, they got a 4-bed, 2-bath for $100 out of their pocket per month, including utilities. Which do you think they would prefer? They really, really want to keep that. They really don't want to screw it up. They don't want to lose that voucher. Now, you've got some bad actors, but you're going to have bad actors everywhere, right? To represent the entire population of one demographic by the bad actors is a terrible thing to do. We've seen that in politics all over the place. So these people really don't want to lose those vouchers. So that's a really good thing. So they're going to take care of your property. Their normal wear and tear will be a little bit higher just because they're harder on the property in general. But overall, Section 8 is a very good thing. It's a good option. And one of my philosophies is options are good. All right. So should you avoid Section 8 or is it good? It's a good thing. It just needs to make sense from a numbers perspective. All right. Boom, 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 boom. Let me check the comments. If you guys that are on the call, if you guys have a comment and you send it over, I'll make sure to answer your call or your comments before going through these that are in the questions over here that are through blakeschwanet.com/ask. All right. Neil is asking, what are the parameters for private money lending? Okay, this looks like, okay, so he's interested in the rental roadmap program. And he's asking, what are the parameters for my private money lenders? So as part of the rental roadmap program, this is part of Rentals2Wealth. This is a free group. I also have a mastermind called the 90-Day Rental Roadmap. In the rental roadmap, I do 2 things. I teach you how to raise private money. If you want to learn how to do that, I'm actually going to do a raising private money challenge here upcoming. And so I'm going to teach you how to do it, how to find those people, how to deliver on it. I've got a lot of dope resources for you so that you can raise your own money, even if you don't have any experience. I've raised tens of millions of dollars in private money, maybe up to 100 at this point. And so I'm going to teach you how to do that. So I'm going to do that. If you're interested in doing that, and you want to get on the wait list, send me a DM, just PML, and I'll add you to the wait list. But so one, I'm going to teach you how to do that. The second is, in the program, I give my students access to my private money lenders, so lenders that I've raised for them to fund their deals. The parameters for that is, one, I don't manage their money, so they are responsible for deciding is this a good deal or not. Generally, the interest rates are going to be 10 to 12% and 2 points origination, and they'll lend up to 75% of ARV, purchase plus rehab plus closing costs. So 100% purchase, 100% rehab, 100% closing costs if it is below 75% ARV. All right. So if you're all in at 50, purchase for 50, rehab for 20, and it's going to appraise at 100, the max you'll get is 75% of that. So $75,000. So you got purchase plus rehab, you're at 70. You can wrap in closing costs up to $75,000. That's generally the parameters and the terms for private money lending within the rental roadmap program. All right. Next one. Boom, boom, boom. Awesome. Next question that we've got is, okay, so someone says, I just need money. That's all that I need. Okay. If I just had the money, I'd be fine. All right. So I'll tell you this, with new investors, this is one of the things I see the most consistently, is someone saying, I just need money. So whenever we're talking, I say, well, what do you want to do? What do you want real estate to do for you? They say, well, I want passive income. I want wealth generation, whatnot. Okay, well, what's the barrier to you actually getting there? They say, oh, just money, only money. And generally, that's not the case. It's not actually the case. It's just as far as you can see. So if someone dropped $200,000 or $500,000 in your lap, the next step is, oh, well, crap, where do I invest this? What market do I invest in? Now, it's better to have $200,000 or $500,000 dropped in your lap than not, but it's not the only problem. If someone said, I will loan you money to do this, or if a private money lender said, I'll give you $300,000 to do this, it's not the only thing that's blocking you from actually being able to be successful. You just think it is. And in some ways, sometimes this comes from people's money blueprint, how they grew up with money, what they experienced. Sometimes it's a victimhood mentality where they just kind of throw their hands up and say, well, I don't have money, so I can't do it. That's not the reality. I've got my own experience. I didn't have any money growing up. I remember, washing my car at the gas station with the scrubber, that's meant for cleaning off the windshield, washing my whole car with that. Going out to eat and in college, ordering a cup of soup and just trying to, just eating the leftovers of the other people that were sitting there because no one was taking them home, stuff like that. So I didn't have any money starting out. You don't have to have any money starting out either. But it's not the money that is the problem. It's the skill. Finding private money is a skill. I mean, the people with properties didn't get those properties because they have money. They got those properties, or they got the money, because they built a rare and valuable skill. In most cases, learning how to invest in real estate with low or no money out of their pocket. In some cases, they built the rare and valuable skill of being able to be a brain surgeon, or be a chiropractor, or be really effective as a project manager, or in construction or plumbing, run an HVAC company, whatever it might be. They built a rare and valuable skill. So for you need to focus on building the skill. It's not an art, it's a science. You can learn the skill and learn exactly how to do it. So, and raising private money is a skill too. That's all that it is. Like I said, I've raised tons of private money lending. It's just a skill. You have to learn how to do it. You're not trying to get everybody to lend to you. You're trying to find the right people. When you find the right people with the right value proposition, it's like giving them a cool glass of water in the middle of a desert. It's easy. So again, if you want to be a part of that private money lending challenge, you just let me know. Send me a DM or a message saying private money lending or PML, and I'll put you on the wait list. We will be capping the registration for that because we're going to do some role playing. We're actually going to get knee deep and super practical in how to raise this money. So those that are on the wait list will get first dibs. But all that to say, you don't just need the money. You need the skill. You need to build the skill. And if you build the skill and you find an awesome property, the money's going to show up. It's just going to come running toward you, especially with commercial money. Commercial money, they don't care about you, the borrower. They care about the property. They care about the income potential of the property and the asset security of the property. They don't care about you. All right. I went to a lender to get a mortgage on a property for 80 grand. The bank says you can't do that. It's too small of an amount. Am I screwed? What do I do? Oh, okay. So some lenders will, when you work with lenders, what you'll learn is oftentimes a bank will say, you can't do that. They'll just say that that's not possible. You can't do that. And what the reality is they don't do that. The banks, lenders, hard money lenders, they're all optimized for different things. So, saying that you can't do that is like going to a taco shop and saying, can I get a burger? They're going to tell you you can't do that. But that doesn't mean burgers don't exist. It just means you got to go to, the Burger King. All right. So in the same way, just because a lender says you can't do that doesn't mean that you actually can't do it. It means they can't do it. And sometimes it's because you're talking to a loan originator who doesn't have a full, complete grasp on the loan process or the borrowing process. They only understand their localized products that they offer. They say, we've got long-term, we got fix and flip, we got bridges. That's it. But they don't understand how the entire process works. So if you're looking for a loan for $80,000, or maybe the property value is $80,000, you got to come with 20% down, so you need $62,000. What I'd say is generally most lenders will lend above $100,000. And then up until like the between 100 and say 600 or 700, I want to say they updated the jumbo mortgage amount is something like 750 now. So between that range, most lenders will loan. Below that, when you get below 100, I would say you drop to maybe 30% of lenders will lend above $75,000. And then you've got of those 30% in total, maybe of the entire mass, maybe 5% or 10% loan below that. There's what I've seen is additional thresholds at 55 and 35. So what it doesn't mean is that banks won't lend to you. It just means it gets a little bit more sporty. So you got to make some more calls. You got to get in touch with more people. You got to talk to more people and more lenders. And so now another thing to consider is as your loan value goes down, there's more risk on the lender. And so sometimes your terms will change. Your rates will be higher and your LTV requirements will be less favorable. Meaning instead of getting 80 or 85% LTV, you get something like 70, all right, or 65. And at that point, it's just a numbers game. You just got to decide, do the numbers make sense for that? So whenever you find these lenders, what I recommend is you'll find a bunch of emails for a bunch of lenders in your space for long-term refinance or long-term lending or fix and flip, whatever you're looking for. Take all those emails, and instead of calling every single one of them and spending 20 minutes on the phone with every single one of them, where the first 5 minutes is, hey, how you doing? This is what I'm doing. This is my goal, all that stuff. Send them all an email, a bulk email. Take all the emails, put them in the BCC column. In the subject line, put quote request. And in the body of the email, write out what you're looking for. Here's the property. Here's the specs of the property. Here's the property taxes. Here's the insurance. Here's the income potential, all of those things. And then say, send me over a quote. And if it's long-term financing, specify the longer-term amortization process that you got, the better. Send that off. And what you'll find out is your responses, you'll get 3 different types of responses. One is the rates are terrible. They're not optimized for whatever you're looking for. They're going to give you rates in the 12s and 13%. And that's for a long-term financing. Then you've got the middle tier, which is their rates are fine, but they're not hyper competitive. Then you'll probably have between, if you're sending out 40, you get 40 emails, I would say that maybe 10% of them or so, give or take, are going to be really competitive. Make them fight over you. Take the best quote, send it over to the other lenders, say, hey, this is what I got from Joe Bob over here. Can you beat it? These guys are salespeople. They don't want to lose out on something without saying, all right, I'm beat. All right, you got me beat. I can't compete with that. Let them compete for you. You're the pretty girl at the school dance. Like, let them compete for you, and you'll save thousands of dollars on closing costs, and you'll save hundreds of dollars a month on your mortgage payment. So do that, and you'll be good to go. All right, hopefully that helps. Let me check for any other questions. Awesome, cool. We're good there. All righty. All right, next question. I'm looking for an agent. I'd like to interview them. What should I ask? Okay, so essentially this question is, what should I be asking? What should I ask an agent, a real estate agent, whenever I'm looking for someone to add to my team? Presumably this person is investing remotely, so they're not in that market. Investing remotely is perfect for somebody that they live in an expensive market or they don't live in a good cash flow market. There's 3 types of markets, either cash flow, appreciation, or neither. They will not overlap. You can go from cash flow to appreciation. You can go from cash flow or appreciation to neither, but they will not overlap. So if you live in an appreciation market or a non-cash flow market and you want cash flow, you got to invest remotely. And that's the case for 80% of America. They live in bigger cities that just don't cash flow. So when you're doing that, you need to find your market. That's a cash flow market. Then you need to pick your team member. When you pick your team members, there's really three golden team members, three most important ones: contractors, property manager, and your agent. Your agent is one of the first ones that you'll find. And you want to find agents that are referrals. Get referrals from other people in the market. You can go to Facebook groups and post, hey, who loves their agent? And there'll be some people that say, I love this agent. Other people will say, never work with these people. They screwed me out of money. All right. Those are both really helpful. And you'll have some agents pop in there say, hey, work with me. Love me. Go with referrals. Whenever you find a few, maybe two or three that you want to interview, here are some of my favorite questions for interviewing real estate agents. One, how long have you been in the market? How long have you been an agent in this market? The reason I ask this is expertise matters. And you need expertise from your agent, because when you're analyzing deals, you're looking at a few different primary variables. You got rent, you got rehab, and you got the future value of the home, the ARV, after repair value. You have an expert for each one of those. The expert on the ARV is your agent. Your agent literally spends all of their time buying and selling properties, representing people that are buying and selling properties. They need to have an expertise to be able to say a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,400 square foot house in this neighborhood is worth this amount of money right now in today's market. All right. And they need that expertise. They need a higher volume so they can be doing more deals, get more closed loop feedback to be able to build that expertise. If they don't have that, it opens you up to liability when you're buying a property, because you really don't know what the numbers are. So you need to have an agent with a lot of expertise. And that means they got to have some volume, they got to have some experience, and it needs to be in that market. Another way this protects you is if you're going to flip a property, the selling a property is a lot more dynamic than a BRRRR. A BRRRR is historically informed, the ARV of the property. You just look back 6 months and you find comparables. That's not the case with selling a property. Selling a property, someone could tweet something, or the federal government could pass some new policy and home prices either spike or go down. And so what you need out of your agent is for someone to say, it's probably worth about this much, but market's really slow right now. I would take probably 5% off that and expect that's going to be your number. All right. I've got a friend in one market who said he's selling a bunch of his properties, and all the comps that he's running, he's got to take 10% off for them to even get close to what he's going to sell them for. All right. So the market can move fast. It can move slow. You need an agent that will give you the experience to protect you and your downside. That's one question. The other is asking them, are you solely an agent or are you a property manager also? The reason this is valuable is as you build your team, having an agent property manager combo is really helpful, because when you want to go evaluate a property and you're asking, hey, can you run an ARV estimate? That person that you're talking to, they're asking, what's in it for me, right? They're trying to feed their family. They're trying to build their business, whatever it might be. And they're asking, what's in it for me? If they are just an agent and you got a deal off market through a wholesaler, there's not a whole lot there for them. They're not going to get a commission just for running you comps. It's going to take some of their time, and they could either run comps or they could be trying to generate future demand or future business, right? So you want to find a way to be able to incentivize them. If they're also a property manager, they say, well, I'll run comps because I'm going to make $100 a month managing this, or $150 a month managing it. Having that dual property manager and agent combo is very valuable. So that's one. The third one, and I think this is really, really important as far as aligning expectations. When you talk about commissions, one, with the NAR settlement, the National Association of Realtors settlement, commissions are negotiated separately now between buyer and seller. So I'd be clear on what the commissions are. But once you talk about commissions, you need to be clear in asking what their expectations on commissions are before you commit to them. Here's how that'll go. So I'd say, hey, I'm building off-market deal sources as well, right? And as I'm investing, I'm building off-market deal sources as well. I expect that for deals that you either, one, you bring me the deal, and or two, you manage the contract, the entirety of the contract, that you would get a full commission. Outside of that, for deals that I source and I manage the contract process myself, you would not get a commission. You comfortable with that? That should be very reasonable. That's very, very reasonable. If they're bringing you a deal, or they're managing the contract, or they're adding value in the process some other way, you want to make sure that they get a commission. But if you sign a buyer's rep agreement with them, and you have a seller, direct to seller, you just talk to somebody at the coffee shop, or you met somebody online, they say, I'm selling these 6 properties. The agent has a legal requirement or a legal case to be made that they should get commissions on those. Even though you're talking directly to the seller, the agent was never in the loop. You need to make sure that if you sign a buyer's rep agreement, that that's really clearly communicated. That way, you're 100% on the same page. The agent's not surprised. You're not surprised. You're not out more money than you thought, even though you underwrote it and the deal barely worked, but then you had to pay extra commissions and it broke the deal, right? So that's I think one of the most important questions to ask, particularly for remote investors. And then I'll do just a couple more. I'd say, hey, if you don't have a separate or if you don't have a joint property manager and agent combo, you need to ask them if they're willing to run ARV comps for you on potential purchases, even if they're through a wholesaler. And then ask them if they have any contractors or property managers or lenders that they work with that they would recommend to you. Those, and then the last thing that I like to ask is, how are you different from other agents in this market? How are you different? Make them sell to you. They're a salesperson. Make them sell to you. And I don't say this as like put them on the spot. What I mean is their sales acumen that they respond with is going to be what you get whenever they're negotiating on your behalf. They are representing you. And so you want a fox, like you want a lion out there going to represent you to be able to negotiate a better price for you. You don't want them to just go out and be nice and just say like, yeah, take all of my clients' money. It doesn't cost me anything. I just get a bigger commission. You want them to go out there and dog's going to eat. All right. So the best way to get a feel for that is to make them sell to you. If they say, well, I'm just here to help. What? That's too soft. You want them to go out and fight for you. And so make them sell to you. I've got a full interview list of agent interview questions. In fact, I'm gonna put that over in the chat too. Boom. That's a view only document. So if you want to make a copy of it, you just go up to the top and select file and make a copy. It's a template for you so that you can go ahead and create your own interviewing process and put your notes in there and stuff like that. All right. So that's on the interview questions. This person also asked, what red flags am I searching for, or like, am I looking for whenever I'm interviewing an agent? And I'll give you my biggest one. It goes back to one of the questions I asked and why I ask it is, hey, do you have access to contractors, property managers, lenders, other people that you can refer to me? If they, when you ask them that, if they say they have a list, but they won't give it to you unless you work together, that's a yellow flag. It indicates two things. One, they've got a scarcity mindset where they think they really have to protect everything. And you want someone with an abundance mindset, a growth mindset that's going to be really collaborative, because that represents itself in everything that you do, not just in little things, but literally everything that they do. Their mindset will impact everything that they do. So that's one. But then it also represents two, that they might actually think that it's one of the primary value adds that they bring to the table is contractors, property managers, and lenders. The reality is that those roles you can find anywhere. You can find them through other investors. You can find them with Google. You can find them with Trustpilot. You can any of that stuff. And so if they think that this is the primary value that they bring to the table, that's a problem, because you need an agent that has off-market deals. You need an agent that can negotiate for you, that understands the state law for contracts, that understands the market, that understands the value of each property, the fluctuation in the market. If their small list of 2 or 3 handymen and 2 or 3 lenders that they've worked with is their golden goose that they're saving and they're protecting from giving away to schleps like you, unless you work with them, that's a problem. That's a bad thing. And so if they answer that way, I just say, sometimes I'll tell them, sometimes that's just a disqualifier for me. But I might even say, here's what this tells me. Either you got a scarcity mindset or this is the primary value that you bring to the table. That's a concern to me. What do you think about that? Give me some feedback. Right? Like, why wouldn't you just share this? It's not rocket science. Like, it's not crazy. As a new investor, you have a little bit less, you're a little bit less, I guess, power, or it feels like you have less power because you're really just trying to find the right people to work with you. But that's something I do, especially whenever I'm moving around markets and looking for somebody else. All right, boom. Okay. Next question. All right. My appraisal came back low. Investment on a burr. What do I do if I get a low appraisal? Am I screwed? Okay. So here's how this works. When if you're saying, hey, my appraisal came back low, what do I do? This is going to be, this is on a burr property. All right. So the burr property, the value, the burr process, the goal of it is to get a cash flowing property for no money out of your own pocket. All right. The way that you do that, you buy a house with somebody else's money or yours if you want to fund it. You buy it, say for 50, you put 20 into it. Now it's worth 100. Instead of selling it like a flip, instead of selling it and cashing out that $20,000 or $30,000, you then go over to a lender that requires 20% down. They don't care about 20% down. They care about 80%. They will loan 80% loan to value on the property. So if it's worth 100, they'll give you 80. So you go back over to that lender and you say, hey, Mr. or Miss Lender, I want to refinance my loan. I got 70 over here that I owe to John Doe. Will you refinance me? They take that 80, they pay off the original loan. Now you just got a long-term loan at 80% or at $80,000 of principal. So, but all of that is based on the ARV of the property, what it appraises at, the after repair value. This is determined by a third party. So when you go to refinance, that lender is going to contact a third party appraiser, and that appraiser is going to go out and give an opinion of value on the property. It has to be a third party because if they were your best friend, they would go out to the property and say, this is worth $1 billion. And if they're the bank's best friend, they'd say, this is worth 10 cents. All right. So you got to have somebody with a neutral third party. The way they do that is they put it into a third party software. They say, hey, this property is up for bid, and local appraisers in that area will just claim it. So they'll go out and appraise it. If they come back and the value is wrong or it's low, you've got a couple options. One is you can challenge it. So you can reply to the lender and say, hey, I see that let's see, you expected it to come back at 120 and it came back at 102. You could say, hey, it came back at 102. I'd like to see the appraisal. That's way below what I think is even reasonable or fair. So something must be off. They'll send you the appraisal. It's your appraisal. They have to send it to you. You paid for it. And you want to review that appraisal. The appraisal will have two things in it that you want to look for. One, things that are wrong, and two, things you would disagree with. Things that are wrong are factual errors. They are things that can be proven. Things you disagree with are things that the conclusion that you make from the information they give you, you make a different conclusion, right? So, and they're more opinion based. So the two things you want to look at, the things that are wrong, that would be things like, saw one recently where it said it was a 30-year-old asphalt shingle roof, when in reality it was a brand new metal roof. Or wrong bedrooms, wrong bathrooms. It might say that it's a covered parking, two spots covered parking, when in fact it's two car garage that's attached. Things like that. Those are factual inaccuracies. All right, type of property, year build, square footage, all of those things. The things that you disagree with are more opinions in nature. So this could be the condition rating of the home. Condition rating is C1 through C6. They will rate the property in a condition. And this is C1 is brand new. It's beautiful. It's in great shape. C6 is you should tear this down. For a long-term loan, you got to be C4 or better. During the appraisal process, they're going to rank it. Usually burrs are going to be C3 or C4. So if they say it's C4, but you really think it's C3 because you redid everything and it's beautiful, you want to make an argument there. But that would be an opinion. The other things that you could look at is the types of properties that they used. So in your appraisal, you're going to have 3 properties compared to your subject property. You want to go in and find anything that you think is not perfect. For example, if you have a property that's 1945, or I'll use a real example. One of my students had a property that was a 1987 build. And they were comping that property out to the 19 teens. So 1912, 1914, 1915 properties. That's crazy. That doesn't make any sense. You want to be with a real good comp is a comparable, meaning it's actually comparable. It's representative of the subject property. That means it's got to be the same bed within probably 20% square footage, ideally in the same subdivision, similar bathrooms. So within, say, half a bath, maybe a full bath. But that's what you're looking for. Similar build. You're not comparing manufactured homes to a single family brick and mortar residential, right? Those are the things you want to look at. You want to highlight all of those transparent or those disputes or things that you don't think are correct and list them all out. Then send them over to the lender and say, hey, I'd like an ROV or a revision of value. That you might also consider, it might also be called a reconsideration of value, but I want you to reevaluate the value. They are going to then send that over to the appraiser. One of two things is not going to happen. Either they're going to change it or they're going to stay firm. I would say maybe 30 or 40% of the time, depending on how good the justification or the argument is that you send over, 30 to 40% of the time, they might change it. And this is kind of characteristic of the type of people that are appraisers. Appraisers, there's not as many people going into appraising as there are people coming out. So a lot of the people in appraising are older people. Maybe they're 3-5 years away from retirement. Some of them are really just set in their ways. And so they, no matter what you could say you got the year build, you got everything wrong about my subject property. You picked the wrong property. They might just say, no, I'm not changing it. Right. In that case, you got to figure out what to do. But the other is very realistic in that they could come back and change the property value. One of my students, the one actually that was comped out from 1987 to the teens, we made the justification that it's actually more reflective to be compared to new builds because it's twice as recent as the 19 teens. So now we don't think that you should, but here's some more valuable comps. They originally sent it back. I think it came in at 103. They switched it to 140. So that's what is that? Yeah, a 40% increase just because we sent an email saying, hey, I disagree with you. Right? And that happens all the time. That's very regular. People are not perfect at their jobs. Heck, they could have a bad day. They could just be fundamentally bad at their job. There's multiple ways that you can look at that. If they don't budge and they say, no, I'm sticking with my number, you have a couple options. One, you can buy a new appraisal. You can pay another $150, $250 for another appraisal. They'll order it from another individual. And then you want to put that person on your no-go list or what I call your red list. So people that you don't want to use anymore. So future case, when you're requesting an appraisal on a property, just say, hey, for appraisal, I don't care who we use. I just don't want it to be this person. We've had terrible experiences with them. Lenders do not care. I'll even recommend say, hey, this appraiser we've had a great experience with. If you're comfortable with them, we'll work with them. Otherwise, just don't use these two guys. We've had bad experiences. Most of the time, they just pick the appraiser that we recommend. Some people, they're not quite as pumped about that. Some lenders, but in my experience, I've never had someone say, no, we're not going to use that one. I have had a student where they recommended an appraiser and the lender said, we'll shop it out, but we won't use the ones that you said that you don't want to use. So that's one. You can buy a new one. Heads up, some hard money lenders, they don't want to take a second value or a second appraisal. In that case, you just start the refinance process all over again, which is not really a big deal because you haven't paid anything at this point. And if even for the appraisal, if you haven't signed anything saying that you're paying the appraisal, it's completely reasonable for you to tell the lender, hey, I didn't sign anything. You paid for an appraisal. That appraisal sucked. You can keep it as your appraisal, Find a new lender and start the process with them. Another option, in addition to buying a new appraisal, is or one thing to note on the new appraisals, if the value comes back low, they're going to take the most recent one generally. So if you say it came in at 120, but you really want 130, and you order a new appraisal and it comes back at 110, they're going to take 110. So don't get too greedy. If it's close, just leave it. So that's one option. The next option, if they don't adjust it, is just move on. Just take your lumps and say, okay, well, I was going to be able to walk away with $8,000, but now I've got to leave $1,000 in the deal. Can I do that? Okay, fine, whatever. It's not worth it to me. I'm just going to be done with this one. We'll rent it out. We'll cash flow more. All right. You also want to add them to your red list in that case. And then the last one is you just sell it, especially for BRRRRs. For BRRRRs, your exit strategy, it's so risk protected. Your exit strategy is like your worst case scenario. You make $5,000 on a failed BRRRR. If I made it $5,000 for every time I failed at something, I'd be a billionaire at this point. So, but those are the things you can do. But the important thing to note is if your appraisal comes back low, that's not the end of the story. You can still go and adjust things. You can still ask for a revision of value and improve that. So, all right. I've got one here from Michelle, essentially asking, how can I buy a turnkey with no money out of pocket? And I know Michelle is on the call. So it says, I need your advice. I got turnkey properties I can purchase, but I don't have the down payment. It's 95K. I've been approved for 5 DSCR loans from different lenders. What are options where I don't have to come out of pocket for the down payment? Bum, bum, bum. Okay, how can I make 6 figures easily on this? My only thought is to wholesale properties via Zillow and give them to hedge funds for a finder fee. Okay, so a few things here. One, and I know, Michelle, I messaged you about this, but one, making 6 figures is going to take work no matter what. So it's not going to be easy, but again, it's just building a skill. That's all it is. You just got to learn the skill. The wholesaling properties via Zillow, if the skill that you build is finding the right properties that hedge funds wants, and you're really good at that, you can make a ton of money. But just finding properties on Zillow and, calling up a hedge fund and saying, hey, buy this property, they're going to have their own due diligence process, their own underwriting process, and they're going to be able to tell, is this a stud or a dud of a property? All right. So it's not just as easy as finding hedge funds. I know you hear a lot about private equity and hedge funds where it's kind of dumb money, where they're just kind of throwing money at properties, but they're doing it in a calculated way. So it's either market specific or it's property specific, or there's a specific reason. So if you learn what that is that they're looking for, and then you go and find those properties, great. But to get specifically to your question, how can I buy a turnkey with no money out of pocket? There's really a few ways you can do this. The best way to buy a home for no money out of pocket is using the BRRRR method. But if you've got a turnkey, and for those that aren't familiar, a turnkey just means it's in good shape. It's something that you would see on the MLS. It's in good shape. You just buy it and you go ahead and rent it out. You put 20% down and you rent it out. But it's in good shape. If you want to come out of that with no money out of pocket, you need someone else to bring the down payment. All right. There's a few things that you can do here. One, you can find a private money lender that will fund it for you. So either they'll fund the entire property and you pay just debt. All right. It's a debt structure, meaning that they give you a loan. They could also give you just 20% down. So if it's a $100,000 property, they give you to $20,000 as a loan, charging you 10% interest, and you pay them monthly. In that case, you just add that into your numbers. Does the underwriting work? Perfect. Awesome. It's a yes or no question. It's a math question. It's not an emotion question. That's on the debt side. Another way to do it would be to use a private money lender as an equity partner, where that private money lender, they bring the $20,000, but they get a sliver of the property. So they get say 25% of the equity of the property and the cash flow. Now that's a little bit heavier lift on the operations for you. You've got to be really clear with your numbers and your books so that you can pay them out every month exactly what they're owed. But it gets you a property for free. And would you rather have 50% of $100,000 or 0% of $1 million? 50% of $100,000, right? So that's on the equity side of things. And to be clear, you can structure that a lot of different ways. If you're understanding really clearly what their goals are, and they just really want tax offset, they might say, I don't even care about the cash flow. You take all the cash flow. We'll split equity, but I want all the tax hedges. Like I want all the tax advantages. Great. You can structure it that way. So that's how you use a private money lender to do it. Another thing is, if you're talking directly to the owner, you might be able to get the seller or the owner to carry the note. So this would be a seller finance or an owner finance or seller carry. If you're talking directly to the seller, they might finance more of it for you. And the question is, well, why would they do that? You want to make it worth their time. What's in it for me? And is the question that they're going to be asking. And so if the property is really only worth 100, and you can say, well, if you carry the note for me, I'll give you 110, and I'll probably be refinancing. And I just did this with a neighbor around the street, my son and I. On Saturdays, we usually work out on the property, and we're out working, and some guy's out walking his dog, an older guy, and swings by, and he sees my 2.5-year-old using a little spade, a shovel. And he was impressed that a kid knew how to use any tool, instead of just not knowing his head from his foot. And so we got to talking. I said, now you live down the street over here. I see you walking around here every now and again. And he said, yeah, I actually own this property too. And I said, you want to sell it to me? And he said, no, sure. You want to go check it out? So we walked around, and I said, hey, what do you want for this property? And would you carry the note? He said, yeah, sure. For the right numbers, I'll carry the note. I said, all right, well, what do you want? I can give you a better price. I can give you more money if the terms are more favorable for me. right? We just, on last week's coaching call with my students, we analyzed a deal where purchasing it at $100,000 at today's market rates versus $120,000 at a seller carry at 3%, you would actually rather pay 120 grand for it. And you're happy to pay the extra 20 grand because the cash flow is way better, and then you can refinance down the road. So that's the owner finance option, is get them to owner finance it. The final option, there's really two subcomponents, is you got to buy it way under market value. You have to buy it way under market value. This is harder to do with the MLS because it's going to be determined. The whole process is contingent on the appraisal on when you refinance it. But if you find something that, say, it's worth $100,000 and you can buy it for 80, in that case, you can have a private money lender fund the initial purchase, and then you just immediately refinance into a long-term DSCR loan. I had a student do this. Jessica Hoffman, she bought a property in Dayton. It was a duplex. She bought it for 92, thought it was worth 130, maybe 140. It didn't do anything to it. Immediately refinanced it, appraised at 180. And so she walked away with some money. She got $500 a month hitting her bank account, and boom, she's good to go. But she used private money to buy it, paid them debt, a loan, and then refinanced it immediately. She was refinanced within 30 days. No seasoning period for her loan or for her lender. There's a lot of no seasoning period options out there. The other with that is, if you buy it below market, you might be able to find a lender. These are rare. They're like the Loch Ness monster. Like they come around once in a while. But you might be able to find a lender that will lend 80% of the purchase or 80% of the ARV, no matter what the purchase is. Usually a lender will give you the lesser of either 80% of purchase or 80% ARV. And you might find a lender that will give you 80% of the actual value of the property now, such that if you bought a property at 75% of market value, you just show up, you don't have to bring anything to close, because you just wrap in all your closing costs into the equity of the home, and they'll finance that. We got a student with a lender like this in Shreveport, student with a lender like this in Wichita Falls. They tend to be smaller banks or credit unions. A little bit harder to scale because smaller banks and credit unions don't want to have 20 doors, 40 doors with one person in their smaller portfolio. So, but that's another option. So you've got the private money lender using debt, private money lender using equity. You got a seller carry, and then you got 20% down using either a private money lender going into a DSCR loan, or just a lender that you can find that will fund 80% of the value of the loan at purchase. But again, like you want to build the skill. The skill is what you care about. Again, for the private money side of things, if you want to learn how to raise private money in our Raising Private Money Challenge, send me a DM or send me a comment or something like that, and I'll put you on the wait list so you can get taken care of. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, Michelle, your comment. Someone said you can use a life insurance policy as a down payment on a property. Yes, that's true. There's a lot of different assets that you could use for funding a property. If you've got a self-directed IRA, or if you've got a 401k or an IRA and you want to roll it into a self-directed IRA, all that is an IRA where you decide where the money goes. Like, if you've got a 401k and it's managed by Charles Schwab or some custodian, they are picking where your investments are placed. If you move it into a self-directed IRA, it's the exact same thing as the previous IRA, except now you are the money manager. You're the one pointing the money where to go. And in that case, you could use that money to invest in a property. The challenge is, I know with your property, you want it for long-term passive income. If you buy it with a self-directed IRA, the money goes back into the IRA, both if you sell it and for cash flow. So if you want it to fund your food, your expenses, your mortgage, your insurance right now, that's not really going to help, but it is a good option for building wealth for retirement. Another, for life insurance policy, you have to have a large enough cash value available. Cash value available would be, you'd have to talk to your custodian, whoever is helping you run your life insurance policy. Generally, a life insurance policy isn't something that you can just start today and access money out of. You've got to be paying into it over time. So if you're the fee for your life insurance, the actual servicing of your life insurance is $1,000 a month, and you decide to put $2,000 a month in, you're overpaying into it to where you have more cash value. But even at the end of the year, you've only got $12,000 available. For people that aren't life insurance, cash value life insurance, I think is more helpful for the mega wealthy. than it is for someone just starting out with less wealth. Because if you're putting $1,000 in for managing your life insurance, and then $1,000 a month for the cash value, that's $24,000 in a year. And yeah, you got the insurance to cover you up to, $2 million if you die, but you've only got $12,000 that you could spend. Instead, you could just take that $24,000 to go buy a turnkey, right? It's just more purchasing power. Now, there is more distinct benefits once you get down the road, but there's a lot of kind of tax advantages, tax free, whatnot. But again, I think it's more oriented toward people with larger amounts of wealth. The other thing you could do is if you got a 401k, you could take a loan out from your 401k. A few things to consider here is when you take a loan out to your 401 from your 401k, usually they'll give you up to 50%. And when you're taking that loan out, you'll pay an interest rate on it, but that interest rate goes back to you. So again, you're investing in yourself in a way. So they'll give you a 6% interest rate or an 8% interest rate, but it goes back to you. So it's like you're in your 401k investing in, Michelle Limited stock, right? And it gives you an 8% return. That's what that is. A few things to note is one, usually 50% is amount of what you can take out. Two, you can only take out one loan at a time, and this varies by custodian. So I'd ask your custodian. So that's Charles Schwab or whoever it might be. Even if you take out $100 loan and you don't repay it, but you've got $5 million in there that you could access, you got to pay off the 100 before you can get the next one. And then the last one is if it's managed or it's linked to your current employer. Usually, if you lose your job or you decide to move on and you move on from that employment option to somebody else, they will call the note due and they want the loan paid back in 30 days. So if you think that there's a way that either a situation where you're going to either lose your job or there's going to be some type of change in your employment opportunity, or you wanted to go out on your own, or you wanted to go do real estate full time, just know you got to pay that back. So that's another option for using your 401k for funding a deal. So that'll help you get to the point where you don't have to come out of pocket so much money whenever you're buying something. Again, buying a turnkey with no money out of pocket is harder because it's already in good shape. And usually the way that you're creating the way that you're getting a property with low or no money out of pocket is you're creating value where it didn't exist before. So in that case, you're creating value in the fact that you found the secret gold mine of a property that's actually worth more money. An example of this is my son and I were working on the property 2 weeks ago, and we were digging up, and we live in a historic district, so a bunch of older houses. Our house was built in 1939, and so we're digging something up, and we're fixing some sprinkler heads, and we found a coin, a 1951 half dollar, Thomas Jefferson half dollar. There weren't many of these made. And when I was a kid, I was really into collecting coins. So I collect, when they started making quarters with the states on them, collected all those, or I collected, wheat pennies, or just a kind of a nerdy little hobby that I had. And I had never seen one of these Jefferson half dollars because they were printed, or they were minted for a little bit, but then JFK was assassinated and they swapped out JFK's face for the half dollar. And most people don't even know half dollars existed at all, much less that Jefferson was on them and not JFK. And so, in that case, we found something that was, if it's in good shape, you could sell it for, $2,000, $4,000, something like that. That one's probably worth $50, $20, something like that. But what we found was something that other people could have thrown away. And so that's the skill that you would be building in this case. If you say, I'm finding rare property, I'm finding the needle in the haystack. The other way to do it, in my opinion, the more systematic and predictable way to do it is through adding value into the property. Whether that's using the BRRRR method, which is a physical adding of value, it's like construction value, or it's using the BRRRR method on like a multifamily and you're adding operational value. So you're buying something at 40% capacity or occupancy, you get butts and seats, you get more rent, it increases the value, and you can refinance into another note. So that's the best way to actually get those properties with low or no money out of your own pocket. All right, we've got 5 minutes left, so I'll do one more. Let's see. I'll do one more, maybe two more. All right. Erica asked, I'm considering buying near college campuses. Would you suggest or advise renting to college students? Why or not? Why or why not? I'll tell you this. Should you rent to college students? It depends on your goals. Again, there's trade-offs, there's benefits for all of them. The benefit to renting to college students is you've got more market power, because if you're right next to the university, that's pretty sweet. You just walk up, you wake up, you go to class instead of having to drive 5 miles. Universities tend to be more predictable from an economic standpoint. If a university is going to fail, it's going to fail slowly. It's not going to go out like that, out like a light. So now in 15 years, I think higher education is going to look very, very different, but it could make sense. I do not rent to college students. I am thrilled to let other people rent to college students while I rent to small families. The reason for this is a college student is everything but your ideal tenant. Your ideal tenant looks like this. They rent the property at market price. They pay rent increases. They stay forever, and they treat the property great. In no way is that a college student. I remember being in college. I've got buddies that put heads through walls in college. And you tried to hide it from the landlord because you didn't have any money going to college. Like, well, at least we didn't have any money. So you're like, oh, I don't want to pay for this. Right. So you try and spackle it yourself, but it's janky because you don't really have any skills. So in that case, you don't have any of those things. One, you're not going to treat the property well because college students are generally harder on the properties. If you're going to rent to anybody in college, it should be females because they decorate, they take care of properties. That, generally speaking, they're way better for properties than men or than boys. Right? That's your option. The other is they don't stay long. Your best case scenario is 2 years that someone would stay in your property. They're not going to stay 5, 10, 30 years in a property. You can get market increases because you got some turnover, but then also you've really only got 9-month leases because most people aren't staying there during the summer. So I would rather rent to families in the area and let somebody else rent to college students. Again, not bad. Some people are optimized for it. They're really good at it. You can definitely do it. You can make money doing it. If you do it, you need to hold back more money for maintenance, for routine maintenance and your turnover. You also need a co-signer from your tenants, which would likely be their parents, that they would be liable for any additional damages that you would lose out on. Say, for example, a tenant put a head through a wall and then they moved out and they also had a bunch of other damages that their security deposit didn't cover, then you would be able to go after them for the rest of it. And if they didn't have any money, you go after their parents. All right, we got just a couple more minutes. Let me check. So yeah, we're good on questions. All right, we'll do one more. Okay, this one is Winston Wynn asks, what's your one-on-one coaching process? Any guarantee to succeed? What does everything cost? How do I get started with limited capital? A good question. The how to get started with limited capital, I would recommend the BRRRR process. It's the best way to get a cash flowing property with low or no money out of pocket. I started with 10 grand. Built a multi-million-dollar portfolio in 18 months, retired in 2 years. It's not rocket science. Like I'm not just like some brilliant person. Like my students, you look at my students, if you go to BlakeShwanay.com and you look at the Wall of Fame, I've got some of their testimonials, some of their stories. You got some of their, I've got screenshots of like their success. Like they're just normal people. They put their pants on one leg at a time. They just committed to building a rare and valuable skill. They're normal people with extraordinary results. So if you want to check that out, in fact, I'll send this over, that link so you can see some of them and just hear their stories. I mean, you got people that, Brandon Williams went 0 to 9 doors in 90 days, just, crazy stuff. But what it costs, I've got a lot of different resources. So different offerings, Rentals2Wealth is a great option for someone that says, I literally don't have any money. I'm still trying to, I'll give you Q&As like this, I'll give you resources, courses and stuff like that you can earn along the way. And then I have some smaller stuff all the way up through my private mastermind. So it really just depends on what you want to do and what your goals are. And your timeline for success. If you want to get 1 door in the next 30 years, maybe you don't need a coach. If you want to get 10 doors in the next 6 months, you probably need somebody to walk you through the process. So if you got questions on how to do that and you're in the coaching call, in fact, boom, let me just send this over. I'll send you a link for you to set up some time for us to talk. Boom. Yeah, use this link, 90dayrentalroadmap.com/apply. and go ahead and set some time. Look, check out the webinar, see if it looks like a good fit. If it does look like a good fit, we can talk. One of the things that I tell my team is to say, like, if we're not the best option for them, we're going to tell you. We don't work with everybody. We are really, really good at what we do, but we don't do what we don't do. So if you say, I want to start an e-commerce business selling woven baskets, sorry, I just don't do that. If you want to optimize for something that we're not good at, I'm happy to refer you to people. But that's the best place to see, what do they do? What are they good at? And how could they help? And that'll help you get started with limited capital. I do have a guarantee. I got a guarantee on there that if you don't get your first door in 90 days and you do everything that I say, I'll give you all your money back. And that's in the coaching agreement. It lists out, like, what does you do everything I say? Like, obviously I can't control everything. If you just joined the program, then you didn't do anything, and then 90 days later you're like, oh, it didn't work for me. Sorry, like that's on you. But the process is simple and reproducible. That has never happened. Nobody has ever had to use that. So that's what I'm talking about as far as student successes. Like, this process, it's simple and reproducible. It's just a skill to be built. You just have to learn how to do it. It's just like riding a bike. Like, at one point you didn't know how to ride a bike. Then you tried it. You fell a couple times. You had someone teach you. Then you know how to ride a bike. Boom, you're done. So that's what that process looks like. If you got questions, you can go to blakeswanee.com and look at the Wall of Fame, or you can go to 90dayrentalroadmap.com/apply. Again, if you guys, we'll go ahead and wrap up here. If you guys have questions or you want to join the private money lending challenge, where I'm going to go through, I'm going to teach you how to raise private money. We're going to do some specific coaching. I've got scripts for you. I've got some AI tools that I'm going to give you that are just powerhouse. That'll absolutely change the game. And we'll do some role playing and get you used to actually raising your money, so you can raise $100,000, $500,000 for your first deal, even if you don't have any experience. If you're interested in that, send me over a DM, PML, private money lending, and I'll put you on the wait list. Again, we will have to cap that just because I don't want to have 500 people on this. I want to make sure, my goal is to make sure that you can raise your own money, not just have a bunch of people on a call. So if you guys are interested in that, let me know. Otherwise, if you guys want to join the community and get more of this, go to SKOOL.com and look for our group, Rentals2Wealth. Rentals, the number 2, Wealth. And it's a free group. Got tons of courses, training, resources, bunch of community in there that are just wanting to help other people be successful and succeed. You can build some relationships in there, get some training, and learn exactly how to build the skill to get you the cash flow that you need to be able to be work optional and build the wealth that you want to be able to leave the legacy you want. So as you guys have questions, feel free to send them over in the community there. Otherwise, we will see you next month. All right. Talk to you soon.